across America. It's the weekend. This weekend, your host is Chris Baker from KTLK FM in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and KPRC in Houston.
Hi there, it's Chris Baker here, and you are listening to The Weekend, and it's very exciting. We're very excited to be here all across this great nation. There's so much going on. We just had a rousing hour talking about what I believe is a scary missile launch. And I may be able to relate it to our next story, which would be, I'm sick of hearing about these whiners on the Carnival cruise ship. This story, it captured us for how many days? I believe that they actually go together, and I'll tell you why momentarily. But is it me, or did anyone else get a little creeped out on Veterans Day when the lead story in the news was the fact that the broken down Carnival cruise ship was towed back into, what was it? Would they tow it back into San Diego, I think it was? Whatever. General area. Because it had been stranded off the coast of Mexico for a couple of days. And then we had to hear the horror stories from the people on the cruise ship who were saying, oh, it was horrible. It was terrible. We didn't have any hot food. And we had to, we ran out of ice. I'm thinking to myself, this is Veterans Day. And you're talking about this being the worst experience of your life? And then they got off, and what does Carnival do? Gives them their money back and gives them a free cruise to boot. Now, good for you, Carnival. Way to go. How about that? That's good customer service. You had a problem. You're making sure that your customers know that, yep, we had a problem. We feel bad about it. Here's your money. Here's a cruise. We hope to see you again. Now, that's good for them, but oh, no, we had to hear the complaining. Oh, no. Oh, it was terrible. It was horrible. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even get to the casino to throw dice. It was terrible. Look, you know, my favorite interview was a veteran that was on that boat. And they asked him, how was it, sir? He goes, it wasn't that bad at all. Nobody was shooting at us. I just felt that on Veterans Day, for these people to come out and act as if they'd been somehow kidnapped and held by Al-Qaeda for a month. You know, maybe they were in some kind of gulag, some concentration camp somewhere being beaten and waterboarded. You know, then I would say, oh, this must be the worst experience of your life. But let me tell you something. If the worst thing that ever happened to you is that you're on a cruise ship and you don't get hot food for a couple of days, I think you're really ahead of the game. I mean, you know, really, I'm sure it was a pain in the butt. I'm sure that, yes, there was some rather foul odors, and maybe, you know, you didn't get to take a hot shower. Oh, the horror. Really, calm down, everyone. I have not heard of any lawsuits yet, but I'm going to bet you dollars to donuts that, I said that. Yes, I know. It's 1961. I'm going to bet you that you're going to hear the lawsuits. I bet you there's lawyers right now handing out brochures. Hey, if you've been stuck on a cruise off the coast of Mexico. But I want to tell you something. Here's a guy brought this to my attention. Ready? You ready to get wild? Okay. In the last hour, we talked about what I believe was a missile launch off the coast of California. A friend of mine brought to my attention, I don't know, have you ever heard of an EMP? Do you know what an EMP is? An electromagnetic pulse bomb. Now, for those of you who may have watched, I think it was Oceans 11, 12, 13, one of them. It was one of the oceans. And they're robbing Vegas, and they set off an EMP, which knocked out the power in Las Vegas so that Brad Pitt and the rest of those stunningly handsome crooks could walk in there in the latest fashions and steal tons of money from Andy Garcia, who for some reason was obsessed with Julia Roberts, who I've never figured out why people think she's that good looking. She has two bottom lips. Her top lip is a bottom lip. Her bottom lip is a bottom lip. I've never understood the attraction. Yeah, she's a great actress. She's got good hair. Sure, she's at least an 8, okay? But still, I'm sorry, I get distracted with these things. But anyway, some worry, and part of national defense, if I could just take you down this road, please go with me down this road for a moment. Some believe that a way that you could hurt the United States of America is to launch an EMP bomb, an electromagnetic pulse bomb, over the United States at a specific altitude which would knock out our electronics infrastructure, our electrical grid. So in other words, if your computers wouldn't work, your house would no longer have power. Any car built in, with an electronic ignition would no longer function. It's a high-tech bomb, basically. It doesn't really cause physical damage. It just fries out all your electronic components. And the only way, and I know what you're saying, Chris, why do you know this? Because I'm into this stuff. The only way that you can protect yourself from an EMP bomb is to insulate your very important components with lead. And since they banned lead paint because of some kind of poison, I got to figure out another way to do it. Anyway, there are those who wonder, because if you remember, the cruise ship lost power right around the same time that the missile was launched. Not exact same time, but within a couple of days. Okay, within a couple of days of each other. There are some that wonder if maybe the exact same Chinese submarine that I, Chris Baker, believe launched that missile, and many others believe launched that missile, also was experimenting with yet a new weapon. Some type of EMP weapon. Am I scaring you? Don't worry about it. It's just a theory. I'm just passing it on to you. And that's what made the Carnival ship lose all of its power, because it's kind of interesting. I was on a ship, and I've fought engine fires and fires in the engine room. I've been right in the thick of it. I've had the hose. I've fought them before. We didn't lose the electrical system. We had an engine fire and we put it out. So when you hear from the people that were on that ship, you hear that there was the smell of, they smelled an electrical fire. They smelled burning wires, such things like that. Well, that's kind of what happens when an EMP goes off. So see, that's why I'm telling you that we're not hearing the whole story, and that's why it creeps me out. Now, coming up on the show, and we'll get into this momentarily, I got to tell you something. How many of you have thought to yourself, what I need to know is how do cats drink and not get their whiskers wet? Well, you'll be very pleased to learn that a couple of scientists, about 4 of them, have probably, and I'm going to guess, spent your tax dollars and spent 4 to 6 years studying how cats drink and not get their whiskers wet. 4 researchers have painstakingly filmed, analyzed, and determined how it is that a cat can drink water, unlike a dog, keeping its chin and whiskers pleasingly dry. Now, I got to tell you something. First and foremost, when I read this story, I think to myself, aren't there better things for these guys to do? Yes. Find out a cure for baldness. Why are you wasting your time? Who cares how a cat drinks? I can give you the answer to this question without going through 4 years of research. You guys, will you work on the bald cure? You want a better humanity? Work on the bald cure. You want to make the world a much more cohesive place where kumbaya, we're all getting along? Cure baldness. All right, I'm going to answer your cat question in the next segment, because you have to hear this story. Because for scientists to spend 4 years following cats, videotaping cats, sitting in a room, watching this over and over at slow motion, frame by frame, analyzing, taking notes, having discussions, comparing data, one must think to himself, first and foremost, have you guys ever heard of women? But still, I will give you this answer. In this hour, by the way, we're also going to have a big discussion about, well, apparently a lot of groping going on at the airport and the naked X-ray machines. Stand by. My name is Chris Baker, and you are listening to The Weekend.